Hello there survivors, and welcome back to another build tutorial in ARK Survival Ascended. And today I'm showing you how to build Tony Stark's mansion in ARK Survival Ascended, or at least a build very much inspired by it. Before we get into the building, a little bit of warning: you'll need at least a glass texture, whether that's just the normal greenhouse glass from ARK or whether that is a custom cosmetic. Doesn't really matter. Could also be a mod if you have access to those. And a big warning that you need to be able to overlap pieces. So this build, in the way that I'm doing it right here, won't be possible on official. Now, if you want to figure out a way around it yourself, you're of course free to take the lessons and inspiration from this build anyway. But just a fair warning, the way that I'm showing you how to build it won't be possible on official, as you will need to be able to overlap structures into each other in order to make this all work and look good. Now, I personally would recommend the Modern Structures Custom Cosmetic, which has a lot of cool structures, especially if you want to build in modern styles, like the white plaster. As you can see, my base is quite wide, and that's just an easy way to get that look. If you do not want to use that custom cosmetic, or for some reason you can't, even though it is also possible everywhere, I think, you could also, of course, just paint your structures white, whether that is the tech that I use to build this, or just use some other structures. Actually, Adobe looks very good if you paint it in white or a whitish color. It is a very close match. And as always, if you enjoyed these build tutorials, feel free to leave any suggestions for future builds down in the comments below. And don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and of course subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And if you want to show even more support, you can consider becoming a YouTube member. Tier 2 members actually get early access to every video that I post. Let's get into the building. Okay, usually I would recommend finding a nice cliff for this build, since, I mean, that is, of course, where you would find the Stark mansion. But just for ease of the tutorial, I'm building it here on this flat piece of land. And in the case of a cliff, it's really nice to start right on the edge with your foundation, so that you have it really as much on the edge of the cliff as possible to get close to the actual mansion design. And what you want to do is start with a row of 3 of these normal foundations, just like that. Then we're going to start working in towards the center of this shape. So we're going to connect triangles like this, then 2 normal foundations, and again, then triangles like this, 1 foundation, and then we should end up in a circle of triangles. So that's actually going to be the center of this. And then what we can do is actually just finish this shape and go all the way around, basically making this into a circle to get the proper support. So we'll go around, have another layer like this, then we can go around with our triangle pieces on the outside of the normal foundations again, like so. Fill in the gaps with the normal foundations, add them to the outside as well. Basically continuing this pattern all the way around. Then once again, we can start filling in with the triangles. Also filling them in on the outside like so. Because, yeah, we just basically want to continue this shape until we reach the outside one that we started with. Basically laying down the proper foundations for this entire circle. And once we've done all that, we take out our full foundations again and we go all the way around. Now we should be getting to the part where we have the 3 foundations on the outside, and that is of course the size of this circle. So we'll go all the way around, and then we just have to fill in the triangle parts as the last remaining pieces for the circle to be complete. So this is actually the first of 3, technically 4 circular shapes that we're gonna make for this entire build. So yeah, we want to start out with this shape like this. Okay, then we basically want to decide where we want to build the rest of the building. If this is going to be the front of this circle, that means we're going to have 1 circle there, 1 circle there, and then a smaller one right there in the side like that. So if that's the case, we want to take out our walls, We want to find the center here, and then we want to go out by 2. So right here to the foundation, the full foundations. We want to place down 2 walls like this and continue it for 2 more here on the outside there. So this isn't lining up with the foundations that we currently have. This is to start the next layer of the build. And then we basically can start the second circle here, which will have 4 of these full ceilings or full foundations at the edge of the ring. And then we're gonna do a pretty similar thing to what we did for the main circle, is we're gonna start building inwards. So we'll start with adding our triangles like this, going back into full ceilings, and basically building back to the center of this circle again. So we'll just keep going in like this. And at some point, you're probably not going to be able to place anything down again. We want to take out our pillar and just put one down right here so that we have support again. Then we can continue with our normal ceiling, and we can make half of our little circle here. So we want to have another pillar right in the middle of our circle to basically get started with this whole thing. So that is going to be the center of our circle again. Now once again we can start working outwards. So we can start with this whole shape, fill it in with triangles, and of course also add them here on the outside layer as well. Basically, we're gonna do a very similar thing to what we did for the first shape, is slowly extending our circle outward, but then it's going to be a slightly bigger circle. Now we actually want to take our pillars, and on every side in the middle of these triangles we want to make some pillars going down into the ground so that we get some more of our foundation support for the build, instead of having to do the actual foundations, because that will just save us a little bit of materials. So there we go. Once we've done that, we can take out our full ceilings and start adding them in again. Start working on the next layer of the circle, taking out our triangles, filling in these gaps, and then of course also extending to the outside here on the full ceilings. So that will basically slowly but surely growing out this whole circle shape, which is what a lot of the building early on is going to be about. So yeah, we just want to keep going around until we reach the edge that we first started with. So now we're going to take out our full ceilings again. We're going to go around also here on the outside, adding them back in, making sure that we grow this circle until we have those 4 ceilings on the outside like what we started with. We'll take out our triangles and start filling in the next layer. We're almost getting there now, and at some places we might be running into the same issue that we can't actually place down any more of our structures. So we want to make sure that we have plenty of support again. The easiest way is to do that here on the edges of these ceilings, so that we can get some more support for building out or circle all the way round, and it saves a lot of room compared to also having full foundations below. There we go. After that we should be able to continue filling in all our triangles again. And then once we've been all the way around, we can start filling in the normal ceilings in between, like so, and we can finally add them on the outside as well. There should be a limit of our 4 ceilings, so now all we need to do is go around, fill these in, and then fill in the last remaining gaps. Okay, so now we can just fill in the last remaining gaps with some of our triangles, and we should get this circle all complete. And again, this circle is slightly bigger than the first one we've built, and it is of course 1 wall higher as well, just to give a little bit of different layers to the build, and literally different heights as well. There we go, we're almost done, just filling in this last remaining side, and then we should have our second circle like that. A little bit overlapping, well, not literally, because we didn't actually overlap any pieces, but it is of course overlapping with the first circle we made. And you can see it's definitely a little bit bigger, and that will be the biggest room that we'll have in our build. Okay, now we've got the 2 circles. We've got one more of the big circles to make. So once again, we want to find the middle here, and then we want to actually find this part to place 2 walls on top of each other down like so. Then we'll go to this other side here. We'll place 1 more wall right next to it on the right and 2 more walls to the left, so that we have a wall that is 4 wide, 2 high in total to get this shape started. So again, we're slightly encroaching on the area of the first circle here, but it will all make sense in a little bit. Then we're going to start working on a circle. This time, however, we're starting with triangles first. So we're going to add triangles like this. So 4 connecting to the walls, 3 on the inside, and then we can start working our way closer into the middle again of this circle like we've done before. This should all be quite familiar by now. Of course, they're all slightly different sizes, but the whole principle stays the same, of course. And we'll run out of support again. So what you want to do is you want to again have a little pillar going down like there on the middle of the triangles. And then we can start making half of the circle here. We can have our proper support for the circle right here down the middle, so that we can make the circle complete. And then once again, we basically want to go and fill in the rest of the circle until we reach the same size that it matches up with where we started. So first off, we'll start filling in these triangles like this, and also building outward like that on all of these sides. Then we can actually also add in these pillars on the other sides as well to add in the support for the next layers that we'll be adding. So just going around in the middle of these triangles like we did on the first side. Now we can easily fill in the gaps in between with ceilings, and of course at the next layer on the outside of the triangles as well. And then again, just going around until we've got that shape. We can fill in our triangles again for the next layer, and we'll just keep going around and around like this until we've got the right side circle, which lines up with the wall where we started the circle, which I found is the easiest way to work with this and get this done, and making sure that you have like the right sizes for these circles and are connecting them in the right way. Because I've actually already built this whole build twice. I've got a first design of this Stark mansion here on my center world where I play with my friends, and then I made a second edition, the same build but slightly different in a different spot, on the island map that I have on my community server where people can visit it, and we'll have some tech cave fights from. Now you can see we're running out of the foundation support again for some of these pieces. So what we want to do again is take out our pillars and start adding them here on the corners of these full ceilings. And we'll just be going around, of course, and doing this everywhere so that we can just continue to fill in our triangles without any problems whatsoever. And now we should be able to fill in the rest of the pieces without running into any support issues. So we'll just be continuing to go around filling in these pieces like so. And then all we need to do is fill in the last normal ceiling pieces, because we should be lining up with the place that we started. So we'll have our decently sized circle all the way around like so. And there we go. These should be the 3 circles that we've got going on right now, slightly overlapping with each other, shape wise, not structure wise, not just yet, but we will need to be able to overlap in a little bit. Okay, now slowly but surely, of course, we want to start filling in these structures. So we want to actually add the walls here to the side, so that we can, fill them in. This side right here on the front, next to the lower part of the circle, will keep open for now, because we're gonna connect those two with another little shape in a little bit. But the rest we can start filling in the walls here on the side so that we can't see underneath our structure anymore at all. So we just want to go all the way around so that we can fill in all these structures. So this isn't really a difficult job, but yeah, it's just, of course, we need to do this because otherwise it looks kind of weird if we have a floating base like we did before. There we go. That's the first circle done. And then, of course, we kind of want to just do the same thing here for the other circle. Just making sure that we've got all the pieces to fill in the gaps so that we can no longer see inside of our structure. And just making sure that we fill in the walls all the way down into the ground everywhere. Basically just going all the way around until we end up back at the starting circle. There we go. And then we should have made all the way around and closing off all the sides except this one right here on the front, because here we're going to do something slightly different indeed. So what we want to do is take out a quarter wall right there so that we can snap something against it, and then we want to start with some structures like this. So in total it should be something like this. So we have basically 3 triangles lining up with the last 3 ceilings over here. And then, of course, 4 on the other side here, sticking out like so. Then we, of course, also want to make sure that we have the proper support for this. So we can add in some pillars right there on the corner so that we can actually continue building over here. Over here, we want to make sure that we have 2 of these triangles here on the outside. 2 of these triangles here on the outside. And that should perfectly line up with 2 of the triangles here on the outside as well. Meaning that we can fill in, of course, the middle here and then add a full ceiling there, 2 full ceilings there. We'll run out of support again. So here we first want to add in some more of our pillars. And then we could add 2 ceilings there, 2 ceilings here, and then 1 right there. That will slightly overlap into the structure. Then taking out our triangles, filling in these corners bits right there as well. Now we can take out our tech walls again and start filling in this whole structure like this so that we don't see any gaps anymore there. Also might fill in the bottom over here. And then, of course, here we want to do the same on the outside part of this part of the structure, of course. Making sure it's all filled in like so. And again, here on the corner, it will slightly overlap into the existing structure. Then here, however, on the front, what we want to do first is add another triangle like there. So we create this little corner. And then we can fill it in. Yeah, you can choose. You could use quarter walls here, but 1 wall saves the time. And you should already be able to overlap anyway if you're building this build. And then we want to have it filled in right there. That's where we're going to add the stairs in later as well. Then right here on the top, we want to add 2 triangles on these places as well. And then we can just use some quarter walls to fill in these parts of the shape as well. So that we can have another nice staircase coming down from that side. And then right here on this side of our highest foundation circle, we want to also add 2 of these pieces. And then we should be able to add in some walls to finish the shape of those. And in this case, you also want to make sure that it goes all the way down below on the outside. Then you want to take out your thin pillars. Now, either you can use the tech thin pillars, you can use metal if you're building this out of metal. And if you're using the plastiskin that I suggested from the Modern Structures cosmetic, then it doesn't really matter which one you use as long as it's a thin variant for the correct nice look. We want to go here on the outside of the first circle, and we want to go on the side of the full foundations. We want to add 4 pillars up to the top, and one down below, or however many you need to reach the ground. And then we're going to do the same here on the other corner. So 4 high in total, and making sure it goes down all the way to the ground. I'm going to do those on all of the normal foundations that we can still see on this part. So right here, we're going to do the exact same, being 4 high in total, and then all the way down to the ground. And then this one here, we're going to do the same as well. So 4 high, all the way down to the ground. Of course, that's the last one we will actually be able to do, because otherwise we're going to overlap into the other structures. So that's going to be the height of the first circle that we've built. Now here, we're going to pretty much do the same things. So first off, we're going to make this 4 high. This should be a quarter wall higher than the first pillars that we've made. Also here, we want to go down all the way to the ground as well, which will add in some extra support for our build. Again, 4 high in total, and then making sure it goes all the way down below as well. And we'll be doing this, of course, for all of the sides that we can see. So like so, and then right here, even though it's just a corner, we still want to fill that one in to keep the same look going all around this part. Then we move on to the next big circle. Again, we make these 4 high, and we make them go down until, well, in this case, the foundation, but on the outside, of course, it's going to be down to the ground again. So again, on the edges of these normal ceilings, that's where we'll do those. And we'll make them 4 high above the ceiling. There we go. Again, this should be slightly higher than the previous one. Again, a quarter wall height difference. And we're going to go all the way around, adding 4 high pillars and making sure they go all the way down here on the corners as well. So 4 high and down to the ground. And we basically want to go around this entire circle, making them 4 high and running down into the ground everywhere until we meet the last circle. So we should end up with something looking like this with the pillars all around. Now we've got one more circle to go where we basically do the exact same. So 4 high on the corners of the normal ceilings, and then of course also making sure we go all the way down to the ground on the outside, or otherwise until the foundation of another circle. So yeah, we'll just go all the way around, adding these 4 high pillars and making sure we hit the ground as well. And there we go. We should have those thin pillars all around all of these circles. Now, if you're going to be using the custom cosmetic skin that I recommend, the modern plaster, this is where you want to at least transfer all of these pillars into the plaster before we've got any of the walls / glass in, because it's just easier now to get the skins on all of these pieces. Okay, before we start adding in all our glass and walls, this is also the perfect moment to decide where you want to have some of your entrances. Of course, this might depend on your landscape. You might want to change them in default order. I would probably want to have a door right there, so I could get out in and out right there. I'd probably also want a door right here in this corner, just as an extra entrance / access, because we're going to have walkways around the outside of the circles as well. Then nothing here on the smaller part. Then here on the biggest circle, I probably want some entrances as well. I would probably have an entrance right there, nicely located. You could also have it here, of course. Really, again, depends on your landscape, but I would at least have one door on this circle of the build. And then here, you probably also want some entrances. I probably would want one here on this side, so I could go that way. And maybe even one right here at the back as well, going that way. But again, it will very much depend on your landscape, of course, and where the actual entrances make sense. But yeah, that's for you to judge depending on where you build it. It's just easier to decide to do it before you build in the walls. Although, of course, you can always make a new gap in the wall to place down a door or a gate. And having a lot of these gates also, of course, means that you can bring in dinos that fit through the gates. Then what we want to do is a thin tack beam, or any beam actually, on top of the doors, just to finish those entrances and make them look a little bit nicer. And of course we can actually fill in the doors with the proper door. And we'll do the same for the gates, adding in the proper gates as well. Now this is where you start adding the glass. I am using the metal glass wall from ASR, or Architect Structures Remastered. But of course you can use any other glass variant. You could even just use greenhouse glass that's in the game already. And you can also use some custom cosmetics, because there's more and more glass texture cosmetics out there to make this work for you. We want to start here with the highest wall, and we're just going to raise them 4 high, same as the pillars that we've placed down, and just making them go down to the edge of the shape that we've created. And yeah, we're basically going to go around and fill in these glass walls everywhere. And of course, because we've already added the doors, etc., everywhere that we want them, we can just build around those. So here we have a gate. We just only have to fill in the remaining space in the wall. So yeah, there we go. We just fill in these. And of course, there are some parts that are a little bit more tricky, because it's either the inside of the building, or it's because we overlap with other structures. And there, we're gonna have to customize our design a little bit. So yeah, we'll see once we get there. But for the most part, you want to start with just filling in all the walls that are nice and easy and do not have any problems with overlapping or anything of the sorts. And also the walls on the inside, for now, we'll just keep them completely open as well. So then we move on to the second circle right here, because the other walls are all on the inside. So for now, we'll leave them be. Here, of course, we've got another little wall like this. There will still be a slight gap until we make it to the main structure. We'll worry about that in a little bit. We'll just first do all the easy walls, basically, so we can just fill in most of the structure that isn't any special case or any issues at all. So we'll just go around filling in these walls like so. And again, if you meet a gate, you just build all the way around it like that, and then your wall is just a lot easier to get done. And we'll just keep going all the way around until we reach a point where we either overlap or where we run into a different part of our house on the inside. So now for this small in-between part, we again just want to fill in the easy parts of the wall first. And you'll see that for most of the structure, we actually do not have to worry about anything. There's only a few parts where it actually overlaps properly. So that's the small part done. Then we're here on the first circle where we can start filling in like this. We'll leave that little gap open for now. And then we can fill in the rest of the walls, which should be easy enough as well. Just making sure they're all 4 high and just basically lining up with the pillars that we made first. And of course, here we already had the door, so we just basically build around it, same as the gates. Now, we should have something like this, which is almost all the outside walls done. But of course, there's a few parts where we will have some overlapping happen. Now, this is a little bit easier if you're using the Architect Structures Remastered glass as I am, because you also have quarter pieces of glass, which you can use right here, for example, on the small part, to fill in this gap perfectly without having too many issues here on this front. And we can also do that right here next to this door, because it also just perfectly fits a quarter wall. Now, if you do not have any of these glass pieces, what you can then do is just basically make a little square shape out of these other quarter walls, and then just either paint them or change them into the same textures as the main building, basically building a bigger support pillar. Now here we do have more of an issue, because it's slightly more than a quarter wall, but slightly less than a full wall. So what we want to do, in case that we do have the quarter walls, you can use that first. Otherwise, you can just use a full wall instead. They will be similar solutions, but both slightly different. And then what we want to do is create basically a different extra structure. So what we want to do is we grab a quarter wall like this. We make it go up to the point where we would have the normal wall. Then we want to have a little quarter wall on top. And then this is one of those little extra pillars that we can then create by having these quarter walls run all the way down into the foundation like this, basically creating some extra support for the build. It's the best way to fill in these little gaps that remain behind, because unfortunately the way that triangles work in the game, they make all these structures line up slightly differently than it is with normal ceilings. But as you can see, a pillar like this doesn't look too much out of place. And then right here, we also still have a little gap. You can see that if we build just the normal glass wall there, we'll still have a little gap. So instead, what we want to do is basically also create that little bit of extra support here. Now, there's two options. You can actually make it for this height right here, because that's the first one, or you can have it go all the way up. I'm probably just going to keep it at this height. So I'll align a quarter ceiling there, and then make sure that I can do the size as well. Of course, this only works if you actually have overlapping available, but as I said at the start, you kind of need overlapping for this build because of this reason, because there is all these little things that are just a little bit awkward to solve. And then we want to just fill in this little pillar again as a little bit of an extra support pillar in the build itself. Now, technically, there is still a little gap next to this door that you might have noticed. So what you can do to really finish that up and make the gap as small as possible is just having another pillar down there like so. There is technically still a gap, but it's manageable. Like, it's as tiny as it can be. Of course, you can also fill in an extra glass wall if you want to really get rid of it. Okay, here for the interior walls, you actually have multiple options. You can just continue the glass and only have the open bits here at where the stairs are at, so you can fill in all of these walls. But you can also do it a little bit differently. For example, using railings in between to keep a little bit more of an open feel. Or what I also really like, especially if you do have the ASR, is making a little railing out of these quarter glass walls, just because it looks very clean and futuristic. But yeah, this is really up to your own preference, what kind of walls you prefer. If you want more of the clean and open feel like this, or that you want to have still more separate rooms, I suppose, and making them full glass walls. It's really up to what you prefer and what you need for the build. In this case, as you can see, I'm just going to go for a little railing of these glass pieces instead. Then here on this side, you can also decide to still have like a staircase coming down if you want to be able to walk all the way around. That's what I did in the original build, but in the second version that I did, I just made this a wall, or in this case, you could also just make this into a railing. Yeah, it's really up to what you prefer or what you need, but in this case, I'm just going to fill this in with a glass wall on this side. So we have a little bit of the closed off shape right here and a little bit of the open shape right here. I'm actually going to change these to be the closed off wall so that you have both examples, I suppose, of what you can do. So this is if you want to keep it open, but if you want to have these separate circles as more separate rooms almost, then you can just have the walls everywhere except for where you have, of course, the kind of stairs connecting to these separate rooms. Okay, before we continue, it's time to start working on the roofs. And first we're going to start on the highest roof, so of this circle right here. Basically what we want to do to get started is start following the same pattern as we have down below. So we'll start with the triangles on these parts where we have triangles below as well. Just following that pattern. Oh, make sure they only on the inside, of course. Just filling them in like this. Now, there's a couple of options for the roof. You can just fill it in completely with full ceilings. I kind of like to create at least like a little skylight in there as well. So what we're gonna do is for this ceiling, we're gonna go in by about 4 ceilings in total. So now we have 2, so we'll add another layer to this. And of course we're going to fill in the gaps right now, but I just want to show you how far we're going to go with the full ceilings. So this would right now be 3 layers, so we want to add 1 more layer of our ceilings like so, and that is probably where I would leave it. So what we can do now is fill in all the pieces between up until the walls, and then the middle circle will have a little glass roof instead. Because it's always nice, even though there are already a lot of windows in this build, it's always nice to have a proper like sun roof with plenty of light coming in from above as well. So yeah, we can now just fill in the remaining pieces of this build, making sure that we get our roof going. The good thing about this flat big roof on top is that you have a lot of space to park your flyers, or you could even still use the space on top as part of your base. For example, for a transmitter, turrets to defend your base from dinos and whatever. And all sorts of other things, like anything you want to do on the roof. Maybe you want to grow plants there, I don't know. There's still a bunch of space up there. So yeah, we just want to go around, fill in these last remaining spaces so that we basically have created our first circle for this part of the roof, and then we have the middle part left. Now, before we lay in the glass roof, I kind of want to have a beam circle around it. If you use the plaster skins, of course, it doesn't matter which one you use. If you do not use any skins, I would use the metal beams because I like those more for this look than the tech ones. And we just want to go around all the way like this to create that little edge around our sunlight roof. And again, I am using ASR glass, but you could also just use greenhouse glass or use any of the glass skins that you have from Custom Cosmetics. Now, again, you want to just follow the same pattern as we have down below, but then with your glass pieces to fill in the rest of this roof. Alternatively, of course, you could also just leave this open if you want to be able to fly into your build. But then, of course, other people would be able to do the same as well. So yeah, it's up to you whether you're fine with that, of course. So yeah, we're just going to fill in this nice glass roof like so. And then we'll fill in the last few triangle pieces as well, going all the way up to the center. And then we have a nice little glass roof going on like this. But of course, if we leave the roof like this, it looks a little bit weird. This is also why we added the supports down here, so that we can actually extend the roofs here on the outside. Now for this top roof, I would definitely extend them by 3. So first, we'll go add another layer on the outside, just following the same pattern basically that we've have so far. So everywhere where you had triangles, you add a normal ceiling on the outside and vice versa. Now, you can of course customize this if you do not want the overhang to be too big, but since we're also going to have walkways down there, I would recommend always making this top part one more than the walkway down there. And I'm going to have a 2 wide walkway down there, so for me it makes sense to have a 3 wide overlap here on the top of the roof. So basically I'm going to go around and add the maximum, because that's also the only part of course that will have support for on most sides, is 3 ceilings on the outside of this entire structure. So yeah, for now we're just going to go around with these triangles, adding in another layer like so. And once we've done that, we can start adding in the ceiling. So here, this would be the final one, because you can see I can not go any further. And that means we just basically want to fill in the rest of this until we've reached that same size. But this will, for one, just give you a bigger roof. Again, more space to use. And I think it also just looks a little bit nicer. So you should have this, and then of course you just need to fill in the last little gaps with some triangles to make this overlap complete. And there we go. This should be the entire overlap. So now we have 3 extra ceilings on all sides. Now we can also, right here where we have the entrance, still add 1 layer of glass at least here at the top, so that it will line up with the other roof that we'll be building, so that we don't have like a big gap in our structure. And that being said, we basically can start filling in the next roof for this circle as well. Now, of course, this will overlap a little bit with this existing structure because they will overlap. So for now, just fill in the entire pattern, but leave out those overlapping pieces. So what we want to do, of course, is just replicate the entire pattern of the floor as a roof as well, and then just leaving out the parts for now that have the overlapping going on. So we'll just go all the way around, fill in the entire ceiling, and then I'll see you to do this last little bit. So just copy the entire pattern, but leave out this bit where we overlap into the other build. Okay, so now we have this roof going on like this. Of course, if you want a sunroof in the middle, you can still also make a glass ceiling there if you want to. Right here, we should have a little edge going on like this, where we have some pieces that would overlap into the other part of the build that we kind of want to prevent if at all possible. So right now, we'll fill in the last remaining pieces that we can still place. And of course, this is where we would have a big overlap into the other part, which we kind of want to prevent as much as possible. So what we're going to do instead is basically find ways to fill in what we want to fill in without having too many things stick into the other side. So right here, we'll have 2 of these little quarter walls filling in this gap. And that's what we'll start with here as well, filling in these quarter ceilings. Then here we want to have 1 full ceiling, just so that we fill in that last remaining bit. And then here we want to have a triangle piece. So it doesn't look the nicest, but especially if you change it all to the white plaster skin, you don't really notice as much. And at least from the inside, we keep a nice clean look. Then right here, we also actually want to place an extra triangle so that we fill that little gap as well. Now, just as with the previous one, you might also want to add the overlap. Again, depending on how big you want the walkways down there, you might want to make this bigger or smaller. Personally, I probably still would go with an overlap of 3, but an overlap or 2 or 1 can also be acceptable if you prefer that. It's just how much space do you want for the roof? How big do you want those overlaps to look? I think at least 2 for these at the top would be recommended, but if you want more or less, you can. Well, more than 3 is going to be difficult because you'll need support, and that's going to make it look a little bit less nice. But yeah, again here where we're going to run into the other structures, we'll just leave it like this and then leave out the last pieces there. And then we can just go around happily, adding in the overlap like so. Again, I'm going for an overlap of 3 in total. So we're just going to go around adding that extra layer everywhere until we have an overlap of 3 on the outside here. And then here we're actually running into a little bit of overlapping. You probably at least want to continue this one. Again, if it's going to go into the other build, we'll leave it out for now. Same right here. If a piece overlaps, we'll just leave it out for now. Okay, so now again, there's a few parts like the end of there and the end of here where we're gonna have to do a little bit more of a custom design as to not overlap into the build too much. Right here, I would just end it with these 2 triangles because there's no need really to go all the way into the inside. And then right here, probably have it going like this into here. And then you could probably just leave it like this. But if you would want to connect it, what I would probably just do is start from the glass and have some ceilings overlapping into the main structures like this. So that you still kind of have the overlap going up into the glass wall of the other side of the build. Now here at the stairs to the lower part of the build, we also want to add in our glass walls that we haven't done yet. So here at the top, we want to at least have one layer of glass so that once we fill in all the roofs, it's not like a little hole in our design. So we want to do that up to right there at least, so that, yeah, it's basically going to be closed off from the outside if we fill in all the roofs. Then it's probably time to fill in the next roof of this small addition. Again, we're going to start and we're going to leave out all the pieces that would overlap into the other buildings. So right now we're just going to fill in those gaps. Get those ceilings in. This one not, of course, because that's going to overlap. So we'll fill these ones in. Create this corner, and this should line up perfectly still with the wall. And then, of course, the rest of this is just filling it in with triangle pieces, leaving that corner right there out of it, and then we can just fill in this whole part with triangles like so. So for the most part, this is actually fairly easy. Just this part right here is a little bit more tricky. It's also a little bit more tricky because we can't actually snap anything to here, since it's technically all part of a different quarter layer. So we can start right here with a quarter ceiling to fill in this little gap, but then we'll still have a little part left, and this is where we just want to snap a triangle right there, which should fill in most of it. As you can see, like, this is completely solved with minimal overlapping. Then again, of course, you might want to add in a little bit of an overlap. I would start here on this corner, because this is, of course, going to be more tricky with overlapping into the building. And again, you can go a maximum of 3, I would recommend. I would probably just do that for the top part here anyway. And then this part, of course, we're going to only do the parts that do not overlap into the inside. And then here we'll just fill in this part. We can extend it right there, like so, filling these as well without any issues, like that. This should still connect up to there. And then, of course, here it's going to be slightly more tricky again. This we can all still do. Again, that we're going to leave open for now. Then we'll take out our full ceilings. We can extend these to the final 3 on some parts already. Filling in the gaps on others. Like so. And then right here, we should still be able to just have our full ceiling. And now we can fill in the final gap. So here, I would probably just do like normal, because the overlapping is very minimal. It's just like a corner. That's still totally fine. Here we can just fill it in like normal. Same over here as well. Just filling that in like normal. And then just continuing this way. Then here, of course, is going to be slightly more tricky. It's going to be custom. So this can still work. But then the next one would be overlapping. So I would honestly just leave it like that. So that's going to be the ending. Then we're going to crouch right in here. And then we're going to try and fill in this without causing too many overlaps. You should be able to have a full ceiling right there. And what you probably want to do is just add another full ceiling right there, so that it's all filled in without too much trouble. Now we'll crouch into the other side here, and yeah, here it might be a little bit more difficult, because again, this is all going to overlap in now if we want to do something. So what we probably want to do is find this full ceiling here, then add 2 quarter ceilings next to it, which should pretty much line up with the wall. Then we'll keep this going until we reach that part and there's no gaps anymore. And then we'll have one more, because the second one is going to slightly overlap to the outside. So for this, I would just accept that little gap that we'll have. Unfortunately, it's just the way it is. So again, that should give us a nice 3 overlap of the roof over there. Then there's only one part left to do the roof for. And this might be tricky because we have a bunch of overlapping points. But first off, we're going to start right here with copying the design down there, leaving it like this before we overlap into the other building. Then we can just start filling in these full ceilings on these walls. We would have 3 right here as well, so we'll leave a little gap right there for now. Filling in these gaps with triangles, of course, just kind of repeating the pattern that we would normally have. So also adding triangles on the ends of the normal ceilings. Again, a lot of this roof is easy because it's just copying the same pattern of the floor below. Only where we go into overlap territory, of course, it's going to be slightly more tricky. So here, just the 2 normal ceilings, nothing going on. Ceilings there, ceilings everywhere. Hopefully all without too many issues. Then here also, of course, just 2 normal ceilings. Again, leaving that for now. We'll just do the easy part first. Filling in this with triangles again, slowly but surely getting closer. Of course, a lot of this roof actually is overlapped by the other structures, so that is on the one hand a little bit easier, but it makes the finishing touches a little bit trickier. Then here we can have a full ceiling like so, like there, and you can already see the little mid circle coming in. So we'll add the triangle pieces there, and there, and then we can actually fill in a full circle at full ceilings actually on all sides. Fill in the little corners again, and then this is of course where it gets special. This we can still do. This lines up enough that we can accept that. This we can also still do. This we can do, but just about with that corner. Then that is going to have to be a little bit more custom. Here we can still add a full ceiling that should line up. Full ceiling there, full ceiling here, without too many issues. And then we're really into fixing the little gaps that we've left behind now. Starting over here, the easiest thing is to do full ceilings against this glass wall. And then just having at least 3 of them until right here. Where you can choose what you prefer. You can still have a quarter wall here, or you can leave that corner empty. It's really up to whatever you prefer most. What we also want to do is kind of make sure that we have a glass wall in here. So it would go around there. So yeah, again, this piece you might actually want to remove. And then what you could do is just have probably a triangle piece like so, and then whatever to fill in that little gap. So a little adjustment just so that we have the glass top there as well. It's a little bit of an overlap, but it's the best we can do there because of the nature of the quarter wall difference. Then here it's going to be a little bit more easier because we have the snap points of the other walls. So in most cases, what you probably just want to do is snap full walls or full ceilings off from those walls, just to fill in those structures the easiest way without having overlaps that are too crazy. And right here we want to have a triangle like this, triangle like that. And then this last part is a little bit tricky because, well, there's no shape that we can have to fill this in. So it's really up to what you prefer. I would probably go for a triangle like this and then a triangle like that, because that's the least ugly shape you can have there to fill in that gap, making sure that there's no gaps into your building. Then we have a little part left here, of course, where again we just want to snap some full ceilings to the walls to fill in most of these gaps like so. And then the last remaining gap we can just fill in with like a little small quarter ceiling there, so that we have all of the roof filled in like this. And then of course also for this part we want to extend the roof again. You can go up to 3, so I would probably do that. And let's again keep away from the parts where we actually have to overlap into the other structure. So right here, for example, what you would do is just snap the wall or the ceiling against the wall instead of against the other ceiling, which will slightly overlap to the inside. Then we'll have our triangles here just to fill in that gap. We'll also extend it right here. Again, this would overlap into the inside of the building, so we'll just overlap it from there instead. Remove this one and overlap it into the build again. Here we can just do it like normal, like so. And then we fill in the triangles here as well. Fill these in like so. Here we can probably have at least 2 before we run into any issues. So we'll place that one down as well. And then for some of this is already going to be the last one, as you can see. So we'll have a row of full ceilings there. Full ceilings to fill in this. Full ceilings here. Full ceilings there. Oh, actually forgot a triangle there. There we go, making it line up. I also forgot a triangle right here, just to fill that one up. Then we'll have some full ceilings. Again, we'll have a triangle right there, and then we can have a full ceiling snapped to that one so that we don't have to overlap. Actually, what we want to probably do here is we want to have one of the triangles coming in like this so that we basically start rounding off the shape. And then we want to have our little quarter ceiling right there, and then a triangle to fill in the little last remaining gap right there. That's that corner done. Then we'll just have triangles to fill in these pieces. Same over here to finish this overlap being 3 in total. And then this is, of course, where things are going to be slightly different. This, we could still have a full ceiling without too much trouble. And then this is where you basically we just round off the shape like so. Now, there is still a slight gap here, of course. What you want to do is take out your quarter ceilings like this. We can overlap them in there to fill that in, and over here to fill this in. And that actually lines up quite nicely with everything. And believe it or not, that makes that we have all the roofs, including the overlaps, completely done now. What I like to do, at least, is add in some of these ramps. So here I want to go these 2 in the middles, have a little ramp so you can easily go up to the next layer. Here again in the middle, 2 of these ramps so you can go up to the next layer again. And then here I would do it somewhere here on this side. And then we'll have 2 of those ramps and 2 more so that we can go up to that layer again. It is just if you want to use the roof for any purposes, it's easier to walk around now. And this is where we start working on the walkways. Now, assuming that you're building this on a cliff, which is what I would recommend, this would of course start to stick out of the cliff. And instead of following the pattern that we've done above, what we can just do is just make the walkway as big as you want with the same pieces. So for example, here we start with our full ceilings. We'll make them 2 wide in total because that's kind of all what we need. Just for OCD, you can have a little triangle piece right there. Then on this side, we can fill it in with triangles like so, and we can just fill it in all the way. If you do it like this, instead of following the same pattern, it will always have a slightly different shape to each other, which I just really like. But of course, you can also keep continuing the same pattern as we did above. But again, I would make the walkways 1 less wide than we did the overlap. So the overlaps we did 3 everywhere. So the walkway, I would suggest making them 2 or just 1, whatever you prefer doing. And so yeah, here we're just going to overlap into the existing building like that. And that's of course where we also have an extra entrance. Then here we're going to do the same. So here it's going to be the triangles like this. Then that means that we have 2 ceilings right there. Of course, we're not going to continue too much in here. What we are going to do is have 1 little triangle piece over there. And then this is where we would have a stair to connect the walkways to each other. You can overlap the stairs into each other for a nicer shape. And this lines up perfectly with the staircase right there. Then we can just continue that walkway over like this. And of course, we'll have it overlap in some parts, but that should be totally fine. And then just linking it up like so. Then here on the outside, we again start by 2 wide. We can just have our stairs going down like that into the next part of this walkway. And then we can just continue this all the way around. Now here, in case of a gate, it's of course going to be slightly different. You'll have the walkway, but if you have a gate, you of course also want to make a way down into the normal ground. Now, if you run into this issue where the stairs need to go further there you can, because of the landscape. You of course want to make sure that you add in some pillars as a little bit of support for the staircase, so that you can actually connect it back up to the ground and you can get in and out of your base. For the rest, it's just going around and filling in this walkway too wide everywhere until we reach the next circle shape, basically. So yeah, here at the end, of course, we can just have it overlap back into the structure because we can't see that anyway. There we go. That means the next layer. And then here we also made a gate. So first we start out by making the walkway too wide. Well, we already know that we need supports for our stairs. So we'll have some pillars going down like that. Then we can add in our staircase. Again, this will very much, of course, depend on your landscape, how far the stairs need to go down before you touch the actual land again. And then, of course, here we also want to add in stairs so that we can reach the other walkway, like so. And then it's continuing this same pattern again until we go all the way around to the first circle. And of course, here at the end, you probably want to go halfway. And then we can still have a staircase leading down onto this first walkway to connect it all the way up. Yeah, so you can basically actually use the walkway to easily get around your base as well. And then for this walkway, in some cases, you probably want to add some supports, depending on the landscape, of course, because this one is a little bit too low above the ground to actually add anything to it. But in these parts, you probably want to add some extra detail. So we start out with our roofs, like so, going back into the structure. Then we'll have some slope walls here on the side, basically making some supports for this walkway. And then here on the back, even though we'll probably never see it, we'll add another roof like that. Then we want to have an appropriate gap, because if we add one right there, that will kind of overlap into the other one. So we'll probably add one right there. And then make the same little structure happen. And basically for all of these, you want to do the same amount of details. So you want to make them go in and then add the sloped walls, etc. And then what you probably want to do is just go around adding these details in. So here for this big one, of course, you can add 2 of the corners on the normal ceilings and then probably one here in the middle for the triangle bits, because that just kind of lines up in a nice way if you go around like that. And then, of course, don't forget to go back and add those sloped walls and the extra roof detail as well. But in my experience, it's always easier just to first go around adding in these slopes and then adding in all the extra details. So once more, I'll show it once more before I go and do it everywhere. So yeah, we'll add in those slope walls like this, and then another roof here at the back. Now for this one, we could probably still add one in the same manner. So here at the full ceilings, we'll add one on either corner like so. And then, well, right here, we kind of don't need it because it's going to be very much integrated into the main building. And then here in the other bit, we do not really have a middle anymore. So probably what we want to do is also have 2 of them. So like this, so that we have proper support. So basically we have one gap, then another one, then a 2 gap, and then another one. And that's what we want to do all the way around for these ones. And then of course we got this part where, yeah, we also kind of want to add those supports in wherever we can. So at least on these normal ceiling pieces, of course. And that's probably all I would do for this part of the build, just on those corner pieces. Or you could add, of course, more, but then you would have to do them uneven, because there's no way to add like supports here with having the same amount of gaps. So then you can't do them on all of the normal ceilings. So whatever you do, just add a few of these supports in as extra details. So there we go. That is what we should have right now. So all the walkways in place, the supports in place, and a pretty nice base on the inside. Now, this is probably where you would want to start painting or changing the structure skins if you're going to use the modern plaster like I suggest to do if you want the same look as I had originally. And then once you've all done that, you probably also want to add in some of the staircases, but probably easier to do the textures first, because then you can still see everything, but I'm not going to change all of the textures. For the floors, I would recommend either just the Frontier skin that is in ARK itself, because it's a nice wood. You can also, of course, just leave it tech or metal if you want that look. Or, again, pick whatever custom cosmetic floor you like a lot for the inside of your base. Here we want to add in our stairs like this, so that we can go to this little between layer. Of course, we're going to have some stairs here as well, like that, for the next big layer of our build. And then, of course, here we actually also want to get some stairs in so that we can go to the next layer once again. Now, you can leave these open, but you can still see a little bit of the overlapping going on. So you probably also want to, at least for this one, close them off. And then, of course, this is the top layer. You might want to have a little bit of railings on there, just as a little extra detail, like so. And then right there as well. Now again, if you want to, and you didn't build a wall there, you could of course also make a staircase here, if you really want to be able to walk all the way around. However, what you can also do, if you want to be able to reach the roof from the inside without having to fly, you can open this one up actually. Turn this into a door instead. Have a little platform form like this, and then make a staircase down like so. Or if you want to save a little bit more room, what you can also do instead of having that, you can also of course just have some stairs coming down the side like this, so you save a little bit more room on the inside for your interior, and then you can just safely make a railing around it like that. Of course, don't forget to add a little beam above it if you're using tech, and fill in the actual door as well. So now we can actually also reach the roof itself. And with that being said, we have built the Stark Mansion. Let's jump into a little tour of my design. Okay, there we go. This is my Stark Mansion. And as you can see, this is using the white plaster skin from the modern structure skins, which just looks really, really good. But of course, you can also get this by painting Adobe structures, or probably any of the other structures would come pretty close as well. What I've also added is a little bit of an extra shape right here to add a little pool, which is using more custom cosmetics, but it's just a little square addition to the build, which you can do yourself as well. And what I've done, I've added some of these sloped walls as little supports for the overhang, but I'm actually not quite sure if I like that. I think I like the clean look of the tutorial a little bit better. Let's hop into the pool and let's take a tour of this place. So there's a few differences with the way we did it in the tutorial, but that's all up to your personal preference. As you can see, I didn't make the stair down, but I just have the walkway end here. I actually think the tutorial is probably better because that makes it a little bit more accessible to get everywhere a little bit quicker. Then here for the inside, you can see you've got a bunch of storage here, got a little bedroom here, and a little lounge area just to enjoy the view from here. But you have a decent amount of space here. This is also what it looks like if you have a staircase here, so you can quickly get to the next floor. Again, there's a lot of options that you can do, of course, on the inside to change it up to whatever you need most. Then we have this little in-between bit. I haven't really done anything useful with this yet, but we do have a little piano here as well. And my doors are slightly different places. And again, my walkway, not as good. I would say the tutorial walkways are better. It's the way that I built it the second time when I built it on my community server. And then we got the crafting hall here. As you can see, plenty of space actually on the inside for your biggest structures to place down quite easily. Bunch of storage as well, and still plenty of room here in the middle if you want to expand, that is. Yeah, there's definitely more than enough space in this base. And then this one with the skylight, this is where I like the skylight so much, because you get a bunch of light in the middle of your base as well. So yeah, definitely a good addition. You could add that, of course, at least also to the big room right here, Here it might be a little bit more difficult, but you could add a smaller one in the middle at least. And then, yeah, this is more my dino place, so plenty of air conditions to hatch stuff, some cryo fridges, some normal fridges, and a little kitchen there as well. And then got a simple door because, of course, I couldn't do the same staircase because I have to access this staircase as well. Simple access to the roof for a transmitter and just a place to park some of your tames as well. So yeah, that is it for this tutorial of the Tony Stark mansion in ARK Survival Ascended. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and hopefully I'll see you around in the next video. Goodbye.